My wife is pregnant. We're expecting a baby, and we were basically locked down here in Mexico. I haven't get a haircut because I'm trying to, stay away from people.
We're back on Zoom to hear what's going on in other countries. Investigative journalist Miguel Angel Vega helped us do stories from Mexico a few years ago. Now we're talking COVID and a common problem, people without masks.
The situation in Mexico City, it's bad, but people are still going out. You see people, many people out there. There has never been a lockdown in Mexico City.
Mexico, well more than 1 million confirmed COVID cases, the 100,000 dead, leading the world in COVID mortality at almost 10%, twice as high as anywhere else. And Mexico's way behind in COVID testing.
If you want to have a test, then you have to pay, but it's very expensive for Mexican families. It's almost $200 per test. And of course, most people don't have that money. And not to mention that there are so many layoffs. Many people, families have lost their jobs, so they have no money. So the situation is not good. But the truth is, the numbers doesn't really show the reality. More people died. At least I dare to say maybe 4 times the number they're saying. And I can tell you this because I've been working in Mexico City with different media outlets from all over, and we conducted many different investigations, and we spoke with people from funeral homes, hospitals, and doctors, nurses, paramedics, and they are saying, the numbers the Mexican government is giving doesn't really match what we are seeing. The hospitals are almost full. People are dying, and not to mention healthcare workers also are dying.
2 weeks ago in Windsor, we had 0 cases per day. Now we're up to 51 per day.
Michael Poirier, among other things, a tech guy at a Windsor college, provides insight from across the river. Canada, 380,000 COVID cases, 12,000 dead. Michigan, more than 9,000. We actually have more confirmed cases, but then Canada has nearly 4 times as many people as we do.
Do you feel comfortable going out these days?
Yeah, because I do feel comfortable, because when I go out, I would say 99% of everybody I see is following the rules. And if they're not, they're usually not allowed into businesses here, right? So at the beginning of the pandemic, when it wasn't a law to wear a mask, you'd see people that would go into stores and just refuse to wear a mask, and there's nothing they could do. But now it's enforced by law.
A law some Canadians are not happy with.
You guys are the ones that are willing to stand.
Chatham, Ontario. They call this a freedom rally. There's been a few.
They are coming after us.
Rally leaders face charges, and further east, Toronto now on lockdown. Sounds familiar. Restaurants, other businesses closed by law, although a Texas-style barbecue operator is taking a stand, as if following the lead of that mid-Michigan barber back in May.
Will be opening for in-restaurant dining against provincial orders.
Not like the barber, the barbecuer, unable to continue as hoped.
I know our numbers are not great, but they're certainly better than the numbers in the United States, and I think that's the reason, is because Canadians are not as obsessed with freedom and rights. We're more obsessed with responsibility, I think. Not to say that we're better, but I just think that's the difference in our national character.
Such a contrast with Mexico, where PBS NewsHour found a masked man helping his community during the pandemic, only he's from a drug cartel. And there's another grave situation.
Well, in the news very recently, there was talk about running out of death certificates in Mexico.
Yeah, also when we were doing this investigation, that was back in April, May, we heard cases in which families, because they want to have a funeral, they used to bribe doctors. So in the death certificate says it was something else, but not coronavirus. If the death certificate shows that the person died because of coronavirus, there is no funeral. They just take the body and cremate the body, and that was it. So that was the last thing most families wanted. People still didn't believe coronavirus was real back then.
Do they call it COVID-19 in Mexico? How do they refer to coronavirus there?
But in Mexico, everyone call them coronavirus. Very few people call them COVID, but most people call them coronavirus. Sometimes they can make mockeries about the virus. Because like in Mexico, we have these traditional piñatas, and you see piñatas that call COVID.
But you don't call it the China virus or the Chinese virus there, do you?
No, we don't. We don't call them China virus now.
Wuhan was catching on.
President Trump was referring to COVID-19 as the China virus or the
Kung
flu. Is that something you hear from politicians in Canada?
You know what? I don't know for sure if I've heard any Canadian politicians use it, but I've certainly heard people use it.
Well, I guess maybe the politicians aren't so brazen in Canada.
I couldn't even imagine a Canadian politician saying that. And maybe I'm just being naive. Maybe I'm being ignorant. Maybe they do say it.
Well, earlier this month, when the election passed, what's the feeling there amongst Canadians in general? Does it break out the same way? A large percentage are disappointed and a large percentage are happy? Or
I would say there was a tremendous sense of relief. Also, I think it's a relief because we're hoping that our relationship with the U.S. can improve a little bit and get back to normal. I know that there's been a drastic difference, even just crossing the border. There's been a drastic difference in the way that we're treated coming into the country. I think we're greeted with a lot more suspicion since Trump has come into office. And so there's we have Trump supporters here and we have anti-maskers here, maybe not as much, but they're definitely here. And I think the only difference is that we don't have as easy access to guns. They tend to filter their way out of my life. So I don't see or hear those people as much as I used to. So, but I know that they're out there. They have to be. So.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.